used to work AV a long time ago. I worked AV for my high school play productions, so I kind of know my way around this. All right, so welcome. Hi, it's Fursuiting 101. It's a panel of all the ins and outs of fursuiting. I am Myron, aka Flurry, aka lots of other things, because I've got 3 of these ding-dang fluffy dudes. So, you know, I know my way around these guys. I own 3 suits. I've suited hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours. I've got many friends who make them. So there's something to know about fursuits. I probably know at least something about it.
I'm Beagle. I've been a fursuiter for about 3 years now, and I'm still alive, so I'm probably doing something right.
It's a good sign. So anyway, I think we'll just jump straight into it. I'm used to giving these panels solo, so this will be an interesting experience giving it with my good friend Beagle here. So let me just pull up my
Fursuits 101. What is a fursuit? So yeah, basically fursuit definition is pretty broad right now. It's probably any animal-like costume. It doesn't even have to be made out of fur. It could be scales, could be feathers, you know. But a lot of these costumes, they share like, you have to be aware of like the same safety tips, because a lot of them, they cover your face and you need to be able to see everything, so we just kind of group them all into one thing. But first off, if you want to be a fursuiter, how do you get a fursuit? Well, you either, 1, you make it yourself, or 2, you pay someone to make it for you. And most people commission fursuits, and in order to find a fursuit maker, there's actually a lot of resources online.
The internet, Twitter, there's a lot of different repositories where you can actually look up fursuit makers. Honestly, one of the best ways, if you're looking to commission a fursuit to find a good maker, say you look at Alistair here and you're like, wow, that suit is so cute. Ask him who made that suit. If you're a fursuiter and someone's like, hey, who made your suit? You're gonna want to plug who made it. I mean, I think yours is Fuzz Factory, right? No. Oh crap.
For Collective.
For Collective. My friend also has one of those. I get them all mixed up. I'm sorry. So his for Collective. So you know, Alice would be like, oh, for Collective made my suit, and then you can look them up. And a lot of these makers have websites. They have Twitters. They have all sorts of places where you can read all about their suits and prices and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a good way.
So fursuit prices, these things, they actually have like a pretty big range depending on who you commission, and because it like by range you can be from like $200 for a partial to $14,000 for a full suit.
It can be crazy.
Or you can find a $200 full suit from some makers and a $14,000 partial.
Yeah, so one of the biggest things about fursuits, by and large, until you get to the point where you're paying for the name, it kind of goes hand in hand with like fashion and stuff. But before you get to the point where you're just paying for name, what you pay for is what you're going to get. If you're looking for a very high quality, very well put together, comfortable, durable suit, expect to pay a decent amount of money. But sometimes you find diamonds in the rough. Like I got my boy Flurry here, actually secondhand, off of a website called Dealer's Den. And he is a full suit. There's actually a whole bodysuit and everything that goes with him. I think I got him for like $1,600, $1,500, which is a lot less than you would pay normally. But deals are out there. Just know that money usually pays for both appearances as well as consistency. Okay, let's see. Jumping all around here. So we talked about what's fursuits. Let's talk about useful fursuiting supplies and accessories. one of the biggest things you're going to need, if you're planning on doing just a partial, which would just be a head and hands, or a head and feet and a tail, but no bodysuit, you can probably get away with it. However, if you're like these two cuties up front, and you have a full bodysuit, one of the biggest things that any fursuiter will recommend you get is a pair of, or some kind of underlayer. Now, most people will recommend Under Armour, but honestly, anything that is thin and, what's the word, synthetic. You don't want to wear cotton, you don't want to wear wool, you don't want to wear any kind of natural fiber underneath. You want something that's thin and that's going to wick away the sweat and the moisture and keep you comfortable. So most people go with Under Armour as their base layer because it works. You get the Under Armour heat gear. It's kind of important that you get the heat gear. It's for heat. Because if you get the cold gear, that's for like cold weather. But most people will get like, Under Armour heat gear with the idea that it wicks away the sweat, gets it off your skin, helps it start to evaporate, which really cools you down. It helps you stay nice and calm and collected. And just as an example, I can usually stay in suit for upwards of 4 to 5 hours. The one time that I decided, hey, I'm just gonna roll out of bed in my cotton pajamas and a cotton t-shirt. I'm gonna throw my suit on because I wanna get to fursuit games really fast. I did all of that. Within 30 minutes, I was feeling incredibly lightheaded and was in the first stages of heat exhaustion. It makes a tremendous difference. So you don't have to get the super expensive Under Armour stuff. You just have to get something synthetic that's not going to lay on your skin like a wet, sweaty bag. And cotton and wool will do that.
For me personally, like I just went on Amazon, bought a $15 athletic shirt, just off-brand. It works totally fine. I bought 3 of them, so you can just switch them out over the course of the con.
Mm-hmm. And another thing, moving on from that, other things to get when you have a fursuit, and this kind of applies to whatever you have, partial, full suit, doesn't matter. You need some way to disinfect it while you're at these conventions. When you're at home and you're doing your, excuse me, I'm drinking a Monster, so kind of burpy. When you're at just like a little meet or something, a couple of hours, and then you're home, doesn't matter as much. You can, wash your suit or get at it with a scrub brush or something. But when you're at these conventions, you might be here for a couple of days, and your fursuit is going to get sweaty. You might get stuff on it. It's gonna start to get a little grungy if you don't take care of it. What most fursuiters will use is just a simple 50-50 mixture of isopropyl alcohol and water. A long time ago, people were suggesting using like antimicrobial sprays and stuff, but I really highly recommend you don't use that. There are actually some chemicals inside there that can start to break down the backing on fursuits, so use the cheap and cheerful, super easy route. Just take a bottle of isopropyl alcohol. You can get it at literally any convenience store. 70% or 91%, doesn't really matter. Water it down with some water, put it in a spray bottle. Just spritz that stuff all over your suit when you get off. It'll kill all the bacteria, kill all the bugs. That's the stuff that smells, is the bacteria. So if you can kill that, it should prevent your suit from smelling. It should prevent things from growing on there. Because the unfortunate fact is, if you have a fursuit and you don't take care of it and you get things growing on it, a lot of the times that can be a death sentence because you can't get that stuff out once it's started to take a hold. So just keep a bottle of the 50-50 spray when you get out, brush your suit down, spray it, and you should be good.
When you spray down your suit, do be aware of any parts of your suit that may react with the alcohol, such as like paint or airbrushings. Like my eyes, the alcohol would make the paint in my eyes run off, so you have to like cover those up with like tissues or something. But generally it's pretty easy.
Yeah, absolutely. With most of the things that you're going to do to your suit, if you're planning on doing anything to your suit, whether that be a new brush, and I'll actually go over brushes real quickly after this, but a new brush, or you're trying out a new spray or some kind of a scent or something, those instructions were, test in an inconspicuous area first, apply double fold to fursuits, because these fursuits are made of usually an acrylic fur, and acrylic's pretty durable, but some things can eat away at it, so you have to be a little bit careful. Generally, the isopropyl alcohol, the only thing you really have to worry about is if you're airbrushed or something, but it's just a good idea in general to test it in an inconspicuous area, you know, the back of your ankle or under your armpit or something, somewhere where if it messes up the fur, no one's going to notice. But just to jump into the next thing that you should probably have is a good brush, because brushing, it's kind of a joke around the fur fandom occasionally, where someone goes, oh, you need to brush your suit looks bad, brush your suit. But it really does make a big difference. Brushing your suit after you get out of it or before you get in it can make a big difference in not only how it looks, but how long it lasts. Just like your hair, just like you brush your hair when you get out of the shower, if you never brush your hair when you got out of the shower, it would turn into a tangled, natty mess. And at some point, all you'd have to do is just get rid of it to start anew. It's kind of a similar sense with fursuits. If you keep your suit well brushed, it'll look good, and it'll actually last much longer. One of the biggest contentions I've heard to some people like, oh, I don't like to brush my suit very often is, you know, when I brush my suit, I pull out a lot of fur. It's like, yeah, but if you don't brush your suit, and then one day you're like, hey, I want my suit to look real good, I'm gonna brush it, you're gonna be pulling out big old mats and chunks. I keep my suits pretty well brushed, and at the most, I might have like a little small hairball brushing down my entire suit after I'm done. And as far as brushes to get, I don't know about you, but I use a combination of two brushes. One is like, I should have actually brought them with me. I have them in my room, but I forgot to bring them down. I use a combination of two different kinds of brushes. One is a slicker brush. It's like a brush that you would have for, you know, a dog that sheds, like a husky or something. But the important thing to do with that is you actually use it backwards, because the slicker brushes have bristles that are kind of like hooks. If you use them straight on, those hooks, because they're designed literally to pull out loose fur. Like, that's what they're designed for, because they're for dogs that shed. If you do that on a fursuit, unfortunately your fur won't grow back after it gets yanked out. So you actually want to use it backwards, so now the hooks are backwards, they're not going to yank, but they're still going to part the fur and make it look real nice. That's very good for like the long fur, like or my blue friend here. His body is like longer fur. A slicker brush would be great for that. The other thing I use is a shorter bristle brush. It's like the real tight plasticky bristles. And that's more good for short fur, because it'll part the fur much better, and it's much easier to get good control over that. That one's a little more straightforward. It's just your regular kind of brush. You don't have to worry about it yanking fur or anything. But yeah.
So with any type of brushing activity, you're gonna be losing fur, which actually isn't that big of a deal, because fursuits are constantly shedding. Like, no matter
Just like
what
a
you do,
dog.
you just like go run around a con, you'll see, you might leave a trail of fur in the air.
Oh yeah, even in my apartment, there's just fur floating through the air. It's bad.
So don't be afraid to, like, if you shed some fur, because fursuits are pretty thick fur. Like, you could lose giant clumps of fur and it'll still be covered up. So
Yeah, so keep your suit nice and brushed. It
Yeah,
looks
don't be afraid to
better.
brush.
It'll last longer. It's just generally better for the suit and for its visual appeal. Let's see, did I forget something? Ooh, two more little things. Sorry. It's a good idea to have some kind of a good tote to carry around your fursuit in when you're going to these conventions. You can carry it in like a laundry basket or whatever, and that's fine, but it's best to have some kind of a sealed container so that it's protected from water and sunlight and all sorts of other things. So it's a good idea to invest in one of those. If you have a partial, you can use a little tote. If you have a full suit, you might need something like one of those big totes you can get at Walmart. They're pretty cheap, but it's a good idea to have. And also, at conventions especially, it's nice to have a little fan. I actually have a fan that I bought at, I think it was this Walmart or Target, but it's just like a little desk fan, and you can rotate it back, The idea being that once you get out of your suit, you spray down your bodysuit and your head. You can just plop your head right down on that fan, and it'll dry it out. Prevents any stuff from growing in there because it's wet, and then when you go to put it back on a couple hours later, it's nice and dry, and you're not putting on a nasty, disgusting, sweaty head. So, just a couple of little things that are useful to have in your fursuiting endeavors. But the big two are some kind of an underlayer if you have a bodysuit, and disinfecting spray, and I guess brushes. Sorry, big three. Let's see. Do we want to go into caring for suits or performance?
Like washing.
Oh yeah, we can talk about fursuit care, washing. All right, so we kind of alluded a little bit to how to care for your fursuit, but beyond what you're doing at a convention, where you're just spraying it down and trying to keep it from getting all musky, when you're actually home and caring for your suit, one of the biggest things you really should do is wash your suit. It seems kind of scary to wash your suit, this expensive thing. Oh no, I don't want to. But washing your suit, just like brushing it, just like spraying it down, helps keep it nice and keeps it from getting nasty and you having to replace it. With most suits, you can usually turn them inside out, throw them in your washing machine on the gentlest setting, cold water, big deal, cold water. Heat is the enemy of fursuits, so if you're doing anything, use the coldest possible. But usually you can get away with that. If you're worried about that, you can also just hand wash these things in a bathtub.
Ask your maker first before you wash your suit.
Oh, absolutely. Talk to your maker.
Your maker would know. They have experience knowing what their suits can handle, what's the best way to wash it. If your suit requires any special care that others don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your maker will know because they made your suit. They know that in and out probably better than you do. So talk to your maker. Most fursuit makers are very nice about that. They'll actually be happy that you came to them and asked them because they want your suit to look good just as much as you want it to look good. As far as heads go, you have to be a little bit more careful when you're washing a head because there's a lot of foam or resin or whatever, and that holds a lot of water. You don't want it to hold water. So usually what I do is I don't actually wash my head. I will just take a washcloth and basically soak it in the same 50-50 mixture isopropyl alcohol that I'm using at a convention, and I'll actually wipe down the inside of the head. Because most of the time, any of the stuff that you're getting on the inside of the head is surface level. It's not going to penetrate into the head. So you just need to clean the surface. You don't need to throw that in a washing machine or submerge it or anything. Obviously, if it's real dirty, but then also still go to your suit maker because they'll know if some suit heads are even washing machine safe, which baffles me because I would never put my good boy in the washing machine, but some suit heads are a little bit more durable.
Yeah, my fursuit maker, her newer suits are actually, the whole head is machine washable, but my suit isn't, so which is why it's important to ask your maker, because sometimes they change. So you and your friend might have the same fursuit maker, but their suit is newer and has different features than yours. So
yeah, so don't just go to the FAQ on their website. Actually reach out, send a message on Twitter or through an email or whatever method of communication they use, and 99.9 makers out of 100 will be very happy that you ask them.
So what if you're your own fursuit maker?
If you're your own fursuit maker, oh boy. Well, if you're your own fursuit maker, then you just gotta take your best judgment. I would say, if you're your own fursuit maker, anything machine sewn, you can probably get away with washing. If you're hand sewing it, I would not put it in a washing machine. And even if it's machine sewn, sometimes washing machines can be a little rough on them. But just know that generally speaking, a washing machine is more rough. Even if your suit can take a washing machine, you might still want to hand wash it because at the end of the day, it's going to be a little bit gentler. I machine wash all my suits because I'm super lazy, but also because usually the spin cycle at the end does a good job of helping it dry out faster. But it's really up to you. Talk to your suit maker, use your best judgment. When in doubt, hand wash, don't machine wash. And even sometimes you might not need to machine wash or hand wash. You can just spot treat things. Actually this leads into another thing. A good thing to invest in for cleaning, especially in a convention setting where, you might be walking around with your pristine, beautiful white suit and someone's got a plate of french fries with a bunch of ketchup. And oh no, someone bumped into them and you just got ketchup on your white suit. Oh no, what do you do? At the end of the day, these fursuits are essentially carpet. They're acrylic fur, which is not much different than the carpet that's on the ground. So generally anything that's listed as carpet cleaner, you can use for your fursuit. One of the big things, the big two I know people use for spot cleaning of ketchup stains and all sorts of other things is Folex and Spot Shot. But really anything that's approved for carpet more than likely will work for your fursuit. Kind of goes into the same things I was addressing earlier. We should test it in an inconspicuous area. But this is actually something you can talk to your fursuit maker about too, because they'll know what products are good for spot cleaning.
Yeah, so carpet cleaners pretty much just act like shampoo for your fursuit.
Yeah,
they just like, you spray a little bit, you rub it in, it foams up a little, and you can just rinse it out.
Yep.
So it's really easy to use.
Oh, and actually, for washing machines, if you're going to do that, or a tub even, for detergents, a lot of people suggest Woolite because it's real gentle, but honestly, I use, like dye-free, perfume-free Tide. Pretty much anything will work. I feel like people get really strict on the detergents, but pretty much anything will work. I suggest things that don't have dyes or perfumes just because it's going to impart a scent to your suit, and you might not want that, but really any kind of detergent is good. The gentler, the better. Oh yeah, another thing that I'm looking through my presentation. When you're cleaning your suit, fursuits are fragile, and even the best constructed fursuits will eventually have issues, the biggest being seam pops. So right along the seams of any suit, all those beautiful markings, there's seams running through all the transitions and colors. And no matter how good it's put together, eventually you might get a seam pop. When you wash your suit and you flip it inside out, that is the best time to look for seam pops, both before the washing and after. As soon as you see a seam that's been popped, and when I say seam pop, I mean like the actual stitching has either popped loose or the thread has snapped, and you have basically a hole. You want to fix that as soon as possible, because if you let that just sit open, it's only going to get bigger, and it's only going to get wider, and if you throw a suit that has a seam pop into a washing machine, it could pull it wide open, and then you might get tears, you might get other issues that are much harder to fix. So if you're going to get a fursuit, I highly suggest that you learn to do a simple stitch, just a simple sewing stitch, so that you can fix your suit if you need it. Talk to your suit maker. They'll also be more than happy to reference you to places where you can learn how to do that. It's pretty straightforward, but basically anytime you're washing your suit, look for seam pops or other issues so that you can address them as soon as possible. Because the faster you get on them, the less damage they do. All right, do you want to do performance or safety? I'm thinking performance. Just first performance. All right, so we talked a lot about, we talked a lot about fursuits and how to take care of them, but now we'll talk about the reason that you're all getting them, to perform in them, to have fun, to bring a smile to people's faces. It's the whole reason we do this, is because it's fun. We love people's reactions, both furry and not furry, especially the not furry in my case. And part of performing in fursuit is becoming animated. If you're just standing over here, I can demonstrate, because these things move, kind of. So if you're just standing here, and pretend I'm in a fursuit, all right? I'm big and fluffy. This guy's on my head. And I'm just standing here, and you're not very interesting. You're a statue. You know, I could replace you with a mannequin, and it would do nothing. Like the result would be the same. So the biggest thing about being in a fursuit and being entertaining is you have to be animated. You're in this big costume, you gotta jump around and have fun and be fun and friendly and approachable. Where was I going? Because I totally lost my train of thought. Yeah, you can't just stand around, you can't just be plain, you can't be boring, because beyond the fact that you're here to entertain, fursuits really, really muffle your movements. So if you're just doing your normal not fursuit interactions with people, you just walk up and hello, the amount of fur around you basically muffles all your movements and makes them smaller. So you have to amplify all your movements. And then you're also performing, so you should amplify them even more. So when you're seeing someone, yes, big waves, you want to hug, big wide open, whatever emotion you're trying to convey, you have to bump that up to 110%. If you're sad, you have to really hang down low. If you're scared, you can't just, you have to really recoil. The whole point of fursuits is, just like in performance, you have to sell the expression, the feeling that you're feeling. You can't just expect people to telepathically know what you're trying to get at. Especially when you have this big mask over your face, they can't see your facial expression. Beagle here has just the same expression, so now he's got to find a way to adjust how you perceive his expression to be. So, yeah.
Am I happy or sad?
Who knows? You've got to sell that expression. Yeah, so just really blow up your emotions. If you think you're not being big enough, go bigger. If you think you're big enough with your expressions, go bigger anyway. Have fun with it. Yeah. Let's see, what was I gonna do next? We could talk about. Oh yes. Yeah. So we should talk about safety. Safety is actually really important. Usually when I give this panel, I spend a solid fifth of it just talking about safety, because safety is very important. Essentially, you're wearing a big rug, but it's closer in properties to a full body parka. Much in the same way that, I don't know where I was going with that, sorry. So when you're wearing fursuits, you have to be safe, obviously. These things are very, very warm, they're very constrictive, and the biggest thing you have to worry about is heat. Heat is your enemy in a fursuit, because you're covered head to toe. Your body wants to perspirate and cool itself off, but now you're covered in fur. It's preventing air from getting to it, it's preventing the heat from escaping. So when you're fursuiting, one of the biggest things you have to keep an eye on is your heat level, how hot you're feeling. And if you're ever feeling too warm, go to the headless lounge, take off your head. Safety's number one. It used to be a bigger deal a couple of years ago. There's this big debate over, breaking the magic, you're breaking the magic. If you're feeling hot and not okay, and you're like, gosh, I'm not feeling so good, take that head off. Please just take the head off. I don't care if you're breaking the magic. I don't care if you're surrounded by kids. If you're feeling bad, your safety's number one. Take the head off, cool down. If you feel like you can make it, go rush to the headless lounge. It's the biggest thing when you go to a convention, if you're planning on fursuiting. Number one, find out where the headless lounge is, because that is it's your oasis in a fursuit. Because if you don't listen to yourself, if you don't listen to your heat levels and you're like, no, I'm fine, I'm feeling hot, but I'm fine. Oh, I'm fine. And then you get hot enough, you're gonna pass out. You're gonna hit heat exhaustion or heat stroke, and neither of those are fun. If you get so hot that you pass out, paramedics are gonna be called. They don't give a crap that you spent $3,000 on your fursuit. They're gonna cut you right out of it. Your fursuit's done. You're gonna need a new bodysuit. Because their goal is, this person's overheated. I need to get them out of this clothing as fast as possible. So snip, 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 they're done. You don't want that to happen for obvious reasons. beyond your personal health and your personal finances, it's not good. So keep an eye on your heat levels and be smart about it. Drink water. Even though you have this big layer of fur over you, you still will get some heat out of you through perspiration. So make sure that you're nice and hydrated. If you can, look up the signs of heat stroke and heat exhaustion ahead of time so that you know what they are. Hold on, actually, here, I have it right here. So heat exhaustion. So if you have any of the following: blurry vision, foggy thoughts, rapid or weak pulse, nausea, severe cramps, or severe headaches, for the love of God, get out of your suit as fast as possible. I have actually hit the point of heat exhaustion once in my fursuiting career. It was after about 3 hours of suiting and then another 2 hours of being on stage at Anthrocon, dancing with the DJ under the hot stage lights, busting moves. And I was like, I'm feeling a little warm. So I was like, I might want to get off stage. Like, I've been up here for like 2 full DJ sets. I'm gonna get off stage. I get off stage and I walk over to the Headless Lounge. I'm like, I'm gonna take 5 and I'm gonna come back because I love the dances. I sit down, take my head off. I'm like, wow, I'm still really, really hot and I'm feeling kind of sick. So like, I zip my bodysuit down. I'm like, still hot. All right, I'm gonna take off the arms and kind of tie them around my waist. Wow, I'm still really hot, not feeling good. I proceeded to then kind of like lean on a chair, basically on a chair backwards, and passed out for 15 minutes. Just. If I had been in a suit, fully in a suit, and had just dropped on stage, or even walking over, paramedics would have been called, snip to snip. Goodbye, $3,300 suit. But thankfully I had the foresight to go, okay, I'm not feeling so hot, I should probably get out of my suit. And thankfully, after coming to and realizing, oh God, that was really close, I now try to keep a better eye on fursuiting. And actually having someone with you, which we can actually kind of launch into handlers with this, but having someone with you to kind of tell you, hey, you should take a break, you should go to the Headless Lounge, you should have some water, can be very helpful, because you might be in the moment, adrenaline rushing, not feeling any of the bad feelings. Just, oh my God, this is so much fun. I'm in my suit and I'm entertaining all these people and I'm having a great time and yeah. And your friend's like, hey, you've been in the suit now for an hour and a half and you haven't taken your head off, you haven't gone to the Headless Lounge, you haven't had any water. Maybe we should just go there for 2 seconds and, cool down. And usually you'll find once you separate yourself from the super, super fun situation for 2 seconds, oh my God, I actually am really hot and really tired. Yeah, I should have taken a break.
So second to heat, the biggest concern with fursuiting is your visibility and your mobility. Because I have a blind spot. I can't see directly in front of me because my eyes are out here because they're big and toony. So from here to here, I cannot see anything in front of me, directly in front of me. Like you guys in front of me, I can't see any of you guys. So when you're running around in suit, I can't see like anything below my snout.
So children can be an issue.
Yeah, you'll be like running over short people, running chairs and stuff. Actually, at FWA last year, I actually ran into a chair so hard that I bruised my knee and was out of commission for about 2 days because I couldn't see it.
Yeah, that can happen. It can be a little bit rough. One thing you can actually do to help that, and this ties back into fursuit performance actually. Sometimes you'll see fursuiters will kind of like walk around like this. They're doing that partially because it's fun and toony, but also partially because they're literally sweeping the area they can't see. And fursuits are really gonna vary in your visibility. I have worn fursuits where literally like 2 hands side by side, I can't see. So I have just this giant blind spot in the middle. And then like Flurry here has these real big eyes that are somewhat close together. I don't have a blind spot at all in him. It really depends on the suit, depends on the suit maker. It's just a good thing to, when you first get your suit, kind of establish your vision cone, basically. Know where you can see, know where you can't see, know your blind spots so that you can check them pretty frequently. When I'm in suit, pretty often I'll actually like glance down real quick just to make sure like there's nothing at my feet. You know, there's no small crotch-seeking child just running straight at me. That's gonna, oof, that can be a little rough. But
The other thing is mobility, because
oh,
there's an extra like
yeah.
3 inches on my hands, on my feet. This is how big my foot is. This is wider than a normal step on a staircase. So when I'm going upstairs, half my foot is going to be hanging off the back of the stairs. So you have to really be careful on how you walk and where you put your feet, because like my foot just got
And that also super depends on the suit. I know I've got a friend who's got a suit that they wear specifically for the dance comp, and their feet are basically just shoes with a little fur on them. They're very easy to walk around in. I know people who have, you know, hands that are just kind of like, I think they're, what is it, they're like dragons, so they have like just like lizardy hands, or like birds, they have like, and they're very dexterous. But then on the flip side, like, I've seen people whose hands are literally just one big mitt. They have no dexterity. For Flurry, actually, he's a drop crotch digigrade suit. So not only is it effectively that I'm wearing my pants around my knees, but I also have giant pads on them, so I can do little more than a shuffle step. And I've got these big feet that actually have a piece extending out beyond the heel, so taking stairs is very hard. It kind of factors into when you get your suit, really, like, before you take it out anywhere, throw it on in your house, learn your limitations, learn how far you can flex, learn what your blind spots are, how to walk most effectively. It's kind of like learning your body all over again, because now you've got all these things on top of it. And to touch back on something that I kind of touched on earlier, a good thing to have is a handler. Now in a furry con, we're kind of each other's handlers. We all know generally about fursuits, we know about their limitations to some extent, and we can all keep an eye on each other. We're all here for each other. So fur cons, you can sometimes get away with it. If you're ever deciding, hey, I want a fursuit out in public, first off, it's super fun. I highly suggest it. If you can get a group of people around and just walk around your city, first off, make sure that you can, check your local ordinances about masks and things, but if you can, super fun. But if you're out in public or a non-furry setting, especially if you're at a non-furry convention, like a Comic-Con or a Sci-Fi Con or something, have a handler. Have someone who can carry your stuff, have someone who can watch out for you. Have basically your own personal bouncer, because people will be confused about what you're in, and they will ask questions, and it's kind of hard to talk through these things. They will also, some people will run up and be so excited and not understand that you have trouble seeing them, you have trouble hearing them, you have limited mobility, and if some 6'2" guy runs up and, oh my God, animal people, and runs up and hugs you, they can just bowl you right over because you might not even see them coming. So it's good to have a handler, it's good to have your own little personal bouncer to get in front of the person and go, whoa, 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 hold on. Make sure that, hey, you, look, this guy's really excited to see you, and then, oh, yay, now everything's good. Handlers can also let you know, oh, hey, it's been an hour, like maybe we should go behind those trees and just kind of pop our heads off and sit down for 2 seconds, breathe, have a glass of water. They can have water bottles in a backpack or something. It's just a good idea to have. I know that I was once suiting at, I think it was Dragon World Comic Con in Chicago. And it was just me and 2 of my friends, and we decided, we originally were planning to have a couple other people. Got this guy up here making faces at me. We were originally planning to have a couple of people not in suit as handlers, and then they flaked on us. And so it was just me and 2 of my friends in suit. What we really should have done is had one of them not suit and be our handler. You generally want to keep about a 1-to-1 ratio of suitors to non-suitors, but at the worst, have at least a handler. But we were like, no, you know what? We can do this. We're all proficient suitors. We've done this before, no problems. And we're like, all right, let's go in. So we go into Dragon World Comic Con. Everything's pretty good for a while, honestly. Everyone's pretty respectful. You know, they've all dealt with cosplays before, so they know the general rules. You want to get their attention first, and then you can go up and you can take pictures, or you can hug them, or whatever. And then I hear from way downtown, "Furry!" Guy booking it. Luckily, I turn. He kind of announces his arrival first. I turn. I see this guy full on sprinting at me. And I'm like, uh-oh, okay. I played 1 season of football. All right, I got to get ready for this tackle. And thankfully, I'm up front. He runs in and just bear hugs. And, oh, this is not okay. Lifts me up. My friends are like, what just happened? And basically did a nice little rearrangement of my spine. And you know, I feel for the guy. I'm excited about furries too. But this is exactly the situation where having a handler would help. Because they would hear, "Furry!" and they would situate themselves in front. Hold on, stop there. Walk up to them slowly. All right, let's be civilized. Let's not bum rush the animal people. And they would have handled that for us. Beyond that, oh boy, I got real hot and sweaty and thirsty and didn't have someone who had a nice bottle of water for me, which would have been real nice. So have a handler. If you're going out in public, have a handler.
Handling is also a really good way for non-suitors to get involved because, you know, like if you're like a non-suitor and you hang around all these other fursuits, like, you might feel left out, but you know, being a handler is actually a really important job for fursuits. Like, we couldn't do it without you guys.
Mm-hmm. And if you're handling for someone, make sure you know your suitor's limitations beforehand. Know generally their their sight lines, and maybe even kind of establish like signs ahead of time. You know, if I don't this would help me out in a lot of situations. But say you have someone who's just really glomping on you, really happy to see you, and that's great, but like you have somewhere to go, you can kind of establish ahead of time, like, hey, yeah, if I like touch my right ear 3 times, like that means, can you help me get out of this situation? So it's just a good idea to talk with your handler and make sure you have everything kind of sorted out ahead of time. And make sure that they're not just someone who wants to like hang out with the fursuiters, that they're actually gonna take their job seriously. Because the difference between you and getting smushed by a very excitable person is that one handler. So, just a good thing to do. How are we on time? How long do we have this room for? An hour? We have 8 minutes. Actually, we want to open for questions, because I think we hit pretty much everything over the last. Alrighty, so do any of y'all have any questions? Literally anything about fursuits at all, I probably can maybe answer it. Sure.
So with the ears, do you ever do like, and this might be a super silly question, but like amplifiers? Like so that you can hear better? Do they ever build those in? You know, like those little things that people use?
Yeah, no, I get what you're getting at.
Or it's not done?
I haven't seen any suit where that's been done.
Okay.
That would be an interesting idea. Generally, when you're in suit, your hearing isn't tremendously hampered.
Okay.
It is somewhat hampered. Like imagine, it's a good analog. You know, it's basically the equivalent of like just lightly putting your hands on your ears.
Okay.
It just kind of mutes everything a little bit, but so long as people are loud enough, you can hear them just fine. But that'd be an interesting idea to put like microphones up here and a little speaker inside. Idea. Anything else? Anything at all? Sure.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'll be quiet, you guys. So if you're just getting going and stuff, what would you suggest, and another, again, silly question because I don't know a whole lot, but what kind of events, I mean, this is our first.
Oh,
What's ease into? Like, I mean, I hear about Pittsburgh, I hear about Chicago, I hear about Anthrocon, is that Pittsburgh? I don't
yeah,
even know.
Pittsburgh is Anthrocon.
Okay.
So if you're just getting into the fandom and you're just starting with either looking at fursuits or getting into that whole world, a lot of the times there are a lot of local meets. If you kind of look around and listen to the hearsay, you can find some local meets. I know down where I live, there are a couple. There's one called Midwest Fur Bowl, which is really well run, and it's in Hoffman Estates in Illinois. There's also Downers Grove Fur Bowl, which is in Downers Grove. There's a Madison Fur Bowl. What else is there? There was one called Waveland. I think it stopped. But look around. There are smaller little meets that are maybe a couple of hours tops. Usually at bowling alleys. For some reason, furries love bowling. I mean, I love bowling, so you know.
Yeah, really easy way to find these meets. Just go on Google, look up your city, and then look up fur meet.
Yeah.
And then if you don't find anything, look up your state, and then I'm pretty sure every state has like several
Oh, definitely.
fur meets. Like when I first became a furry, and then I was looking for a local meet, I live in Madison, which is the capital of Wisconsin, so I just looked up Madison Fur Meet. And there is a giant furry bowling meet 5 minutes from my house, and so that's how I got
That's a fun
involved.
one. Yeah. But yeah, look it up. If you're anywhere close to a big city, I guarantee you there's at least one fur meet. But that's a good place to start. Otherwise, the bigger cons are also very good places for new furries because especially Anthrocon and MFF, Midwest Fur Fest, which is down in Rosemont.
That was the Chicago.
Yeah, that's the Chicago one, biggest in the world. Let's go Chicago. Those are great for newer furries because they have lots and lots of events, and they'll have a lot of these kind of like introductory, Fursuiting 101, this is your first fur meet or fur con, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That can actually kind of help you get into the swing of the furry thing. Yeah. Anything else? Anyone at all? Any questions? Anything at all? Anyone? Alrighty, well, if that's all we got, then thank you guys for coming out to Fursuiting 101. If you think of any questions in the future at all, you can either shoot them to me or Beagle on Twitter.
Yes. Yes.
Will there be a Fursuiting 102?
Sorry, that's too advanced. That's some high level fursuiting stuff. I don't know, you might need to get a little bit better at fursuiting before. Kidding.
Yes.
Can we get photos at the end with you both? Or with Beagle, my bad.
Yes.
But yeah, if you guys think of any questions at all, we're both on Twitter, at Beagle and Red, right?
Yes.
And at Myron the Fluffy. Literally, send your questions. I love answering questions. I love helping people out. If you see me at the con and you have a new question, don't hesitate to pull me aside. I'm more than happy to help you out. But thanks for coming, guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Cool, I can finish my breakfast.
It's not cold.
Well, okay, the sandwich is cold, but I finished the sandwich. I'm more thinking the fruit.
Silver Gato Man, he bought me a coffee. Silver Gato Man, here is the song for thee. He likes to video all the panels at the cons. You should go and watch them whether they are short or long. Silver Gato Man, you video that's not a jibe. All of you go to his YouTube channel and like and subscribe.